Unlike Donald Trump, who is a child afraid of any interview in which he is not having his hand held, Kamala Harris has been doing tough interviews, and that is exactly what she did tonight. A much anticipated interview with Bret Baier on Fox on Special Report, in which Kamala Harris didn't just set the record straight for an audience that only hears lies about her, but she shut down the lies of Bret Baier, who, of course, some may say is a good regular journalist by Fox News standards. He was just simply asking gotcha questions tonight and taking a lot of what Donald Trump has said out of context to benefit him and a lot of what Kamala Harris has said out of context to hurt her. But Kamala Harris wasn't having any of it. Much like she has been in this entire campaign, she has been focused on the future and focused on talking about the issues that matter most to the American people. And when Bret Baier tried to stop her from doing so, she shut him up, silenced him on his own show, left him embarrassed, and left the audience more educated than before, because that's what Kamala Harris does. And that is why she is such an incredible leader. And that is why I'm so excited to get into this interview. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you enjoy our channel and want to be a part of the community that we're building here, to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really goes a long way and means the world to me. Now let's get into this first clip of Kamala Harris calling out Donald Trump's economic policy failure.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn.
I'm going to go ahead and say what Kamala Harris can't, because she's running for president. If you think Donald Trump is better on the economy than President Biden is or Kamala Harris will be, then yes, you are stupid. Unless you're a billionaire who's receiving giant tax cuts from Donald Trump. But even in that case, the damage and destruction that Donald Trump will do to our economy, like he has in the past, will also negatively impact you. That is why there are so many institutions, economic institutions, billionaires, and Fortune 500 CEOs coming out and saying that Kamala Harris is good for business, Donald Trump bad for business. And I know Kamala Harris can't say that directly, but of course she is talking about her economic vision. But what she should and can and did say in a clear voice was how unstable Donald Trump is, because the Fox audience, they never see it, but they need to know it. Let's check that out right here.
Wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam Vice President.
You and I both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become, but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
Yes, Donald Trump is unstable. Yes, Donald Trump is in cognitive decline. Yes, Donald Trump is more unfit than ever to be president. He was unfit the first time. He is even worse now. That is why, like Kamala Harris said, there are so many Republicans supporting her. That is why there are so many former Trump officials supporting her. And that is why we need to continue to call out the Republicans who aren't and call out the lies that they continue to push. And speaking of which, we saw a lot of that from Bret Baier, especially when he was trying to sane wash and reframe Donald Trump's enemies from within comment that he continues to make. And Kamala Harris called him out for that lie, shut him up, and we got to take a look.
If he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States, why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask.
It is no surprise that Fox, as the Fox propaganda network that they are, that they're trying to sane wash Donald Trump's comments about attacking the enemy from within. And we have covered this so much on the show because it's simply so cowardly and so sad to see all these Republicans try to cover up for Trump. And what Fox didn't play there, and what Kamala Harris is talking about, is how, although there's tons of Republicans, Glenn Youngkin, clearly Brett Baier, many others who were saying, no, that's not what Donald Trump meant. Of course, he doesn't mean that he wants to attack Democrats. What Donald Trump said today is, yes, he does want to go after Democrats. He does want to go after Adam Schiff because he is insane. He is aggrieved and he is out of control and needs to be stopped. And so I'm so glad Kamala Harris shut Brett Baier up there. And he also shut him up right here in this great clip.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what, you got to take responsible for what happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people,
on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say?
Kamala Harris is so spot on, not only just calling out Donald Trump, but clearly taking a jab at Fox. Donald Trump doesn't have a plan, much like Fox doesn't have any substance to discuss, or they do. They could be journalists. It is supposedly the title of their network to be the news. They never are. But all they can do is use fear and anger and conspiracies to distract people from the truth. And that's what Donald Trump's transphobic ads are all about, is just distracting people from the truth. Distracting people from the truth of his cognitive decline, distracting people from the truth of his failed presidency, and distracting them for the truth that Kamala Harris is not only better for business, better for democracy, better for our infrastructure, better for what else do I need to say? She's a better candidate. She always has been, and she will be a better president. And that's what we need to focus on the substance, and also focus on the substance of the terrible things Donald Trump has done in the past, which is exactly what Kamala Harris called out right here.
Is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's administration that Iran
regime
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Well, I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision that they feel.
Who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard.
This is a guy who has constantly attacked our men and women in uniform. And Brett Baier is trying to defend that. He's trying to distract from that. Not a real journalist if you're doing that. If you don't want to talk about that truth. If you only want to talk about, your little bits of picked out sound bites from Donald Trump to make him look sane. Is Brett Baier trying to audition to be Donald Trump's press secretary? I'm sorry to disappoint you, Brett. That job is going to be taken by Laura Loomer in the horrible scenario in which Donald Trump wins the presidency. So maybe stop being such a stooge. But of course, Kamala Harris was there to shut it down. She is not afraid of the tough questions. She is not afraid of the tough battles. That is why she is such an incredible leader, and it's why she'll be such an incredible president. And we're going to keep talking about that on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.